So I'm going to walk you through a fence that I am building for Rock Creek, and let me show you kind of the look that I'm going for. Where is it? Here it is. So I want this dry rock wall. This course in real life has a lot of these like dry walls, really like this one right here. And this is pretty close actually. So this is the look I'm going for, just so you guys know. It's really wide and pretty short. Um, well, let's get started, and let me just show you kind of some of the things I initially ran into and how I ended up resolving those. So let me go over here. First of all, when I'm building a custom fence, I like to find a flat area because it's if you don't do it, if you do it on an incline, the way the corners and the joints match up, it might not look right when it's flat. Um, so Auto Fence Builder, and what I do is I immediately just come over here and put like a long section down, all right, like this. And you can see this is still my the custom one that I did earlier. Now what I do is I immediately just start going through these and finding something that is somewhat close. And you can see when you can change the materials on these. I'm going to show you how to do this. So what you're really looking for is the general shape. And what I do like here is I like this section right here, okay? Because I don't want it to be perfectly flat like this. I think if I make this rock wall flat, actually I did it flat like this, and it looked too flat, too perfect, and it was kind of like, wasn't realistic looking. So I want something that's a little bit more edgy like this. So I like this piece. So you can find out what this piece is. So let me go down to rail A and let me look around. So this is this, that's rail B controls, which I'm not using. So rail A controls this brick 2. So this is sequence, how many sequences? There's 13 sequences. This is sequence 5. So sequence 5 is using this brick broken wall 3, brick 2 broken wall 3. I like that. And this has got 13 sequences. I don't think I need 13, but I want some randomization. And I've already experimented with this, and I know that at 7 or 8, when a person looks at the fence, after 7 or 8 sequences, it starts to look random. If you only do 2 or 3, things start to repeat and you see a pattern if you're out at a distance, but 7 or 8 is pretty good. So let me do 7 sequences. And I really want to only use this broken wall 3. I'm probably not going to use anything else. Um, and I'm not going to have any posts, so I'm going to disable those. And you can see all of a sudden I got this gap. So let me go back to, whoops, turn my rail A on. Number of stacked rails, I definitely want 1. Spread distance, not sure why. Let me see, distance between posts. Let me change this to like, I'm gonna keep this around 3, I think. But there's a gap in there. I gotta figure out why that gap. I do want a little bit of height variation, but I'm gonna turn that off for now. Rail A size. So this is my X. Let me change this to 1. See, that is what closed that gap. Okay, so that's what I want. Y is scaled up a little bit. Let me just change that to 1. This to 1, so everything is scaled at a factor of 1. It'll help with my texture later on, and I'm going to show you how to add a texture later. So now I'm starting to get this a little bit. Now, also what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop a human dude in here so I have an idea of exactly how high, because when I looked on that web page, that thing looked like maybe about hip height. This is going to be way too tall, right? And there's a couple different ways that we can fix this being too tall. One is I could scale it, right? So I could come up here and where's my size? I could, let me see, is it going to be Y? I could scale it, but look what happens when I scale. It stretches out my texture. So I want to avoid scaling as much as possible. So I'm going to keep that as 1. But what I can do though is I got my position offset. I could take Y and I can drop it. Whoops, it says grounded. Get rid of that. And now if I start to drop this, you can see that looks a little bit better. Okay, it doesn't mess with my texture, which we're going to apply later on. So now I got this maybe, and we can come back and change this height a little bit. But now the thing is, I want this wall, this type everywhere. So I'm going to come down here to, let me see if I can assign all. Why didn't that do that? Reset all steps, shuffle all variants. Um, I'm just might have to come up here. I bet there's a way to assign them all the same, but I'm going to come down here and just do it this way. It's going to take me a second. Now I have them all assigned to that same broken wall, but that doesn't really match up, and it got way too short now. So what I'm going to do, well, offset, I'm going to raise this up again, right? And now let me come down here to this beginning section. Take a look at this. Now you can see here, where'd my human guy go? I should bring him down here. I can't because I am in auto fence mode. I got to get out of here, grab him, and move him on down. Unity's thinking for some reason. There it goes. Move this down here and then circle back so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. Raise them up. So the height, I think, still looks good. What I don't like, though, is if I go back to this photo, even though there's some variation, very little in this, it's not angled like I have here. All right, so this goes down. I don't want this. I want this fairly flat. So what I'm going to try to do is let's go to Auto Fence Builder again, sequence 1, and I'm going to rotate this, sequence 1. And you can see when I do that, now my edge, I have this edge, uneven edge, but at least it's going flat. Now the thing is, it is changing the brick, but I'm not going to have a brick texture on here. I'm going to have a stone texture, and the fact that this is going up and like this shouldn't matter with the texture I'm using. However, if you wanted brick on here, that's going to be a problem. And honestly, I don't know how to fix that at this point, but it's not going to be a problem for me, so I'm going to continue. So now I've got this. This is angled a little bit here, but that shouldn't be too big of a problem. I can hide that with some vegetation or some other rocks. But that looks good. That's kind of flat. Now let's go to sequence 2. And I'm going to do the same thing, except, so this is back to front mirrored. So that should make it look a little bit different, right? And because I want a little variation. I don't want things looking, I want things to be like, very different looking. And of course, my human guy is right in the way at this point. So let me go to the other side and look. And you can see now I've got a little gap here, but I do like this, how this is looking. So what I can do is I can come here and I can size this up a little bit. Oop, not on the Y. I think I want to do the X. Yep, I want to make that a little bit bigger. And now I can shift this on the X and move it over so now they overlap. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I like that. And I can do the same thing with 3. Now 3 mirrored it. So if I just vary this, right? Let me move over so you can see. Again, I want to avoid things becoming like patternized. So let me look at 2. 2's front to back. 3, I'm going to do mirror Z, so that'll give it some variation. I'm going to rotate it again to get it to match up here. I might have to move this over position-wise. There we go, right? Now that looks like they're blended pretty well together. And I got this variation here. Looks pretty random. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go through the rest of these, okay? Change what's mirrored, like what direction it's mirrored. If I flip vertically, it's just going to put the flat side up. You'll see what happens. That's what I don't want. I want that rough edge on the top. But I want to play with the mirror and the front, the back. So I'm going to go through and change all these. I'm going to pause the video because you get the idea of what I'm trying to do. Okay, so I've done the other sequence steps, and you can see like here's my 1, 2, 3, and you can see that I've kind of matched that this is kind of blends together in here between rotation, sizing, and scaling it. But I want to show you something important. When you get here to 7, so here's my 7. Let me blink on and off for you. 7 then is going to connect back to 1. So 7's the tricky one. You have to get it to match 6, and you have to get it to match 1 so that when you connect your fence together and that sequence starts again, that it's seamless, right? So I just want to make sure that you're aware of this. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to rotate this so it's kind of horizontal. I'm going to position it down a little bit, right? And then it looks like I'm going to have to move it over this way because I see that gap in the lower left there. That's a little bit better. Now let me zoom in here a little bit. You can see I got this here. That's not too bad. I mean, once I put my texture on it, it'll just look like a rock, but I want to get that a little bit closer. So let me scale see if I can scale that, move it again. Yeah, this is going to be tricky. Let me pause so you can, as I work this out. All right, so I had to get a little bit creative to get this to match. So what I did was, and this I think this will work out fine, is my sequence 7, I used the straight, not the broken, but the brick 2 panel. So you can see this is a straight panel to match up here and match up there. And now if you look down through there, it doesn't look, I mean, there's another straight one down there. You can barely tell it's straight because there's enough randomness here. Up close, I think after I put my texture on, I'll show you here in a second, I think it'll be fine. One thing that was really messing me up here was that I had small random rotations on up here. And you can see when I did that, I was getting these spots here and there, which was kind of messing me up a little bit too. So I turned off those and things line up really well now. Now, the next thing I want to do, I can see this might be still a little tall. So keep in mind that I can come up here and I can position offset. I can lower the whole thing at one time now, right? The whole darn thing to get it to the height I want. Now, another thing I want to do is I want to make this really wide because remember in that picture, um, this rock wall is like, I don't know, it might be 18 inches or even 2 feet wide. So I'm going to come up here now and size, I'm going to see, is it this way? Nope. I think it's Z maybe? Yeah. So now I can widen this fence too. And that, I think that looks pretty good proportionally to what I'm looking for. So now I got this fence. Yeah, I'm beginning to like the look of this. So now I got it kind of the shape that I want. Well, what about the appearance of it? So first of all, if you remember from the other tutorial, let's come back and come up here, finish and start new. Let me put it in my raw fences. And before I do anything else, let me save this as a favorite. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to call this Masta's dry rock wall RC for Rock Creek category. I'm going to put it in my favorites and save. Did that save? Hopefully it did. It's doing something. Let's see here if I can get, it looks like it did. Yeah, it just took a second. Favorite, Masters drywall. Cool. So now I've got that. And I have created my, here it is, my raw. Okay. So it's still my auto fence rules-based fence that I have here. I'm going to create a merge mesh copy. You can see here's my merge mesh copy. So I'm going to turn off, well, let me show you what's going to happen. If I don't turn off my raw fences, you'll see how things are double rendered. Go into here, I can look at my posts. So it did add posts. And I don't know why, I don't know if this is a bug or what. So even if you don't have posts, you didn't add posts, and I didn't in this case, when you create a merge mesh copy, it adds posts. I don't know why. So I usually just delete those. Delete. And so now here is my Rails merge, and you can see that these are meshes, and I've got this shader, the standard shader applied to it, and here's my texture, this broken wall albedo trans. So what I did is I went out on the interwebs and I found a texture that I like that looks like that picture I just showed you. And let me remember where I put this. I think I put it in my train backup. Yeah, materials folder. So here's the texture I found. It was on textures.com. I love that site. And I had this albedo texture that you can see here. So this is what I'm kind of looking for. Exactly what I was looking for. But what I did was I wanted it to kind of match the rock on the course. So I took into Photoshop and I created this. Okay, so which is more of like this neutral gray, which matches that, and then I can tweak, well, let me show you. So I created this, and then I got my AO, my height map, my normal, and I created this wall rock material. And now, since I have this material, I can go back into my fence, my rails merged here, and I can take that material, my wall rocks, and I can drag it into my, replace the broken wall here, and what happened? Why didn't I? Oh, I kind of see it. Where'd it go? That's because we're double rendering. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you. If I come up here to my raw fences, I need to disable this guy. Now we got it, and this looks pretty freaking sweet, right? I love it. Between the AO, the normal, it got some depth to it. Now you can definitely see here where that flat one was. I'm not sure if I like that. I might have to go back and replace that and tweak it a little bit more to fix this so it's uneven like the rest of them. But, and we're in a spot, let's look at the golfer's height. So if we come down here and go to about a golfer's height, it looks freaking awesome, right? I like a little bit of variation. It looks completely random because I got enough spacing in there. And if you come back in here and you go to that shader, I can actually tweak this, all right, to get it to match a little bit closer to the rocks that are already existing. Let me do that. And I can always make this, yeah, right there. This reddish, adding a little bit of red to it. Close that. Now you can see it looks like this rock wall was made from the rocks on the rest of the course, kind of like a native stone wall. Hopefully this example was useful to you.